Last week, there were reports of a leaked document that was connected to the reasons why Pope Francis severely limited the traditional Latin Mass. This week, new evidence has come to light that seems to confirm that the Vatican manipulated the results of a survey taken of the world's bishops that, in the Pope's words, Pope Francis's words, compelled him to restrict the ancient form of the Mass. Joining me with an update of her bombshell report is independent Vatican journalist Diane Montagna. Diane, your blockbuster exclusive last week revealed that, in fact, the bishops of the world did not have a problem with wide celebration of the Latin Mass in their dioceses, yet in both Traditionis Custodes and the accompanying letter all but banning the traditional Mass, Pope Francis emphatically states that the survey results carried out by the CDF, the Doctrine Office of the Vatican, and summarized in their report were central to his decision to crack down on the ancient liturgy. He wrote this: "The responses reveal a situation that preoccupies and saddens me and persuades me of the need to intervene." Diane, given what we were told when that document was released and what you found last week, what does this mean for the credibility of the Vatican and its doctrinal office in this matter? And don't they owe the Universal Church an explanation?
Well, I think that's certainly true, Raymond. What was at the heart of this document, and your viewers will understand that this document was put together as the official report by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith's fourth section. Now, this part of the CDF had been responsible for years for overseeing, and even under Pope Francis, overseeing the implementation of Summorum Pontificum. So they were the department, if you were, the entity within the Vatican most expert in these matters. Really at the heart of the report that they developed over those months was what was called an overall assessment. And at the heart of it was that the majority of bishops, contrary to what seemed to be communicated to us in Traditionis Custodes and the accompanying letter, that the majority of bishops thought that it would do more harm than good to make any legislative changes to Summorum Pontificum.
But Diane, why distort the truth in order to justify the Pope's restriction when the Pope could do whatever he liked? He didn't need a survey or the bishop's approval to do this.
Yeah, well, that's the mystery of this, Raymond, because the Pope could have come out and just said, I have decided, given my own findings and my own conversations, that it's time to revoke Summorum Pontificum. I think what may have happened, Raymond, is that back in 2020, there was, and I've reported on this, there was a meeting within the CDF at which Cardinal Hidaria, the prefect, was absent because he was sick that day. And it was then at that meeting, I've reported on this, that several of the cardinals started to be very open about their problems with the traditional Latin Mass. That was in January 2020. Your viewers will keep in mind that the survey went out to the bishops in spring of 2020. And then in the subsequent months, this was developed. So my guess is that two things. One, the Pope may have been pressured by some of the bishops, by cardinals, to take a step to restrict the traditional Latin Mass. It could have also been that the Pope expected the results of the survey to show something that they didn't. It may have been a surprise to him, and there have already been, may have been a desire to restrict the traditional Latin Mass. We don't want to speak ill of Pope Francis, but it is well known, even in his autobiography, Hope, that he had some negative attitudes towards the traditional Latin Mass and towards those who are attached to it, calling them backwardists.
This week you updated your report and you say the Vatican Doctrinal Office 2020 summary of this bishop survey on the Old Mass was in fact authentic. You've uncovered a protocol number for that final report. Now tell us first, why is that important?
The protocol number helps because every official document within the Vatican that's developed receives an official Vatican protocol number. So I put a photograph of that, of the cover of the report out. It shows that this was the report issued in February 2020 based on the consultation of bishops, and it has the protocol number. So there can be no doubt really that the document is authentic.
At the July 3rd Vatican press conference, which was intended to unveil a new Mass for the care of creation, Holy See spokesman Matteo Bruni was asked about the authenticity of the text that you released. Okay, that seemed to suggest that Pope Francis and the Vatican lied about the results of this survey of bishops. Bruni said the following: "I am not confirming the genuineness of the texts that have been published. This is part of one of the documents on which the decision was based. And this, of course, is very incomplete and a partial reconstruction. Now, the consultation that has just been mentioned was then supported by other documentation and other reports and further consultations that the Dicastery of the Doctrine of Faith has received. But I won't add anything else because this has nothing to do with today's press conference." Now, Diane, I love the part about I'm not confirming, but this is one of the documents that inform the decision, which sounds like a confirmation. What does the new evidence you obtained this week say about Bruni's July 3rd comments, and what do you make of those?
Well, it's interesting. Matteo Bruni, and your viewers should keep in mind that this was a press conference that pertained to the Dicastery for Divine Worship. That's why the question was asked, because you had an official from the Dicastery who's now charged with enforcing Traditionis Custodes there on the panel. But what's interesting is that right before, it was Hannah Brockhouse from CNA who asked the question. And right before she asked the question, Matteo Bruni, the Vatican spokesman, welcomes to the press office Cardinal Victor Fernandez, the prefect for the congregation, now dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. So he was also there. So it's clear that this was organized damage control, because they knew that given that there was a press conference, somebody was likely to ask a question. And I want to make it clear, I like Matteo Bruni very much. He's doing his job. This was a prepared statement on a sheet of paper that he read out. But Matteo Bruni said that in addition to the consultation that was done in 2020 by the CDF, that there were other documents. And in fact, he said other confidential reports based on further consultations that were submitted to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. So wait a second. We didn't hear about that from Pope Francis. We're only now hearing about that from the Vatican press office. Pope Francis only told us, and he was firm about it, that he ordered the consultation, the detailed consultation from the CDF in 2020, and that the results so saddened him and concerned him that he felt he had to do something. So yes, the Vatican is now saying 4 years later that there were further documents that went into this, but that's not what Pope Francis told us. Furthermore, in order for those, and this is what I put out today, in order for those further documents and those further confidential reports based on further consultations to have any weight whatsoever, they would have had to overridden the CDF document. So basically, these further documents would have had to prove that the official CDF document had inaccurately concluded that the majority of bishops wanted to stay the course with Summorum Pontificum.
Diane, given all of this evidence that is now coming to light, do you think Pope Leo is going to be compelled to act? And what are you hearing from bishops in Rome? What's the reaction to this?
Yeah, well, the story has been quite big. I mean, Nicole Winfield did an excellent article for the Associated Press. So this story has gone all over the world. And I think it's of particular interest, certainly to Catholics, but to non-Catholics, in part because the FBI was investigating traditional Latin Mass Catholics. So it has wide resonance throughout the world. Regarding Pope Leo, I do want to make something clear. I put this out, if you want to call it a divine leak. How did I get this? This has been on my mind for a long time. I prayed to the Lord to send it to me. So maybe, the Lord wanted this out because he allowed for me to have it. And I did it for the good of the church, and I did it for the truth. I think it's good for the family of the church to know the truth about this. And I certainly don't have any intention whatsoever to try in any way to force Pope Leo to do anything or to compel Pope Leo to do anything. And no one should. Pope Leo is a good man. He has a deep relationship with the Lord. He's a reasonable man. And he is a man who does not want injustice. So I simply think that there's hope that we could see him do something, perhaps in the autumn.
Well, we'll keep watching that, and we'll keep watching your reporting. You can follow Diane Montagna on X and dianemontagna.substack.com. Thank you, Diane. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Raymond.